both are, it is not that London's modernist critiques are so vicious, or that the critics of modernisms in London are so vicious. It is that modernism itself, when it comes to architecture in London, is so mediocre that it can only provoke such a response. Another story of modernization. It's a story of the bus, of the bendy bus. This is a bus, as most of us know them on the continent, driving in London, single-decker bus. I think there have been single-decker bus in London since 1969. This example, I think, is active as of about 2000. Of course, this is the old Routemaster, the well-known English double-decker bus. Boris, in a way, as one of his election spear points, bringing that bus back. A competition was held. Aston Martin and Norman Foster. Capocco design came in second, and all kinds of avant-garde designs for the London bus. Then what happens is that not Foster's bus is introduced, but in a way another type of bus based on the design of Foster's is introduced. The analogies with master planning, I think, are abundant and implied, and therefore this is then the Boris bus, finally standard double-decker plus an extra door, extra staircase. The door, particularly here at the back, for health and safety reasons, which provoked a big debate. The iconic part of our transport system is beautiful and has a green heart beating, puny fistage through the cut emissions give London a bus to be proud of, cutting-edge design and the freedom of an open platform. 7.8 million for 5 buses, 305,000 for a bus, compared to 80,000 for that, which of course leads to another kind of controversy in the face of a resistance to real modernization, and a resistance to real modernization which takes the form of undoing modernization, which comes at tremendous cost. And the weird irony, this is a recent poll held amongst Londoners, and is that the category that responds to what do you think is important. Developing a new bus for London is almost as important as no response. It is the lowest category of replies, what people consider important in transport, and that's where huge amounts of money are invested. The relative indifference to the physical shape of things, I think, is one of London's key assets, and that's of course a very weird statement to make for somebody whose work is aimed at creating physical change, but it's of course something very important to acknowledge when you start working here. This is Piccadilly Circus, 1920, Piccadilly Circus, early 60s, Piccadilly Circus, late 60s with the Routemaster active, Piccadilly Circus today. I would say the changes, apart from, I would say colour photography develops faster than Piccadilly Circus. There we go, Trafalgar Square, Trafalgar Square. Whitechapel Road, Whitechapel Road. London's main mission is dedicated, I would say, to preservation rather than to development, and a physical form, physical substance that hardly changed. Well, of course, the city harbours enormous change. 1985, 2001, 2010, BBC production. This is not to say there isn't any modernity in London. This is not to say that there isn't extremely beautiful buildings in London. This is also not to say that London doesn't have any regard for modernism. Often hidden in the city fabric are enormously beautiful jewels, often in a kind of an age group that the decision needs to be taken whether to get rid of them or to keep them. This is a yes. This is a yes. This is a no. I do not know the reason why. Maybe 1 in every 3 has to go statistically, but I would have made another pick. Basically, as said, the jewels of modern are hidden. This is the building we're doing in East London. This is the building we're replacing. Kind of a very beautiful modernist building, hidden in an alley, while essentially the traditional city fabric along main routes is always preserved. And only once you go on the roof and once you go higher is it clear that London does modernize. But maybe resisting both planning and architecture, the very density of the city of London limits both the impact of architectural crimes committed against it and the exposure of its hidden assets. So there is really 2 sides to the medal in that case. One wonders how long this can go on for, because I mean, if you think back to the development areas which I showed earlier in the presentation, of course they're huge, and of course they will not be hidden assets. Maybe they won't be assets, but I mean, whatever, they will not be hidden. King's Cross, Stratford, the Olympic site, and of course Canary Wharf, which has taken place. There, the identity needs to be created from scratch. One really cannot use the identity of the existing city, but the identity has to be created anew, which is then tried with architecture, which I leave you to judge how successful that is in terms of identity. In the case of King's Cross, maybe out of skepticism over the power of architecture, it's done through public space, square, road, boulevard, a kind of boulevard, road, square, yard. Watercolor renderings with people, but a reality of empty streets. This is the redevelopment of Arsenal Stadium. Renderings with people, the reality contains nobody. Renderings with people, the reality contains nobody. This is really probably very, very important to think how little public space actually does in a context, and how little deliberately conceived public space contributes, and in fact how damaging it can be. It started with the new urbanists in Andreas Dwaney in the United States. Of course, the author of Seaside, which is the home of Truman in The Truman Show. Whatever you think, this guy, for the next couple of hours, nothing is going to happen in his life. If you look at this guy, a picture from Elliot Erwitt from the 1950s, he's probably up to no good, but for the next couple of hours, he is going to have a lot of fun. Drunks in the street, but we tend to sanitize our streets. This is Potsdamer Platz before the war. This is the plan for Potsdamer Platz, again dedicated to the blessings of public space. This is Potsdamer Platz afterwards. It's again a sanitized, consumeritist type of space. Increasingly, we patrol our spaces and we watch our spaces. And in a way, watching that spaces and the notion of control has again a very, very strong effect on public space. Over 400 CCTV cameras in the City of London. This is Blue Water Shopping Centre. Blue Water Shopping Centre basically is the first shopping centre that forbid people to wear hoodies because they couldn't be recognized on CCTV. So, I mean, not only is it damaging, but there's a very eerie side to public space. This is an example actually from the Cape brochure, which I think is always very interesting. This is the Park Force in London. The Park Force takes care of the parks, and the Park Force makes sure that the water is clean, they mow the lawn, they target everything that is not prim and proper. Again here, empty the dustbins. And this is the Park Force, a kind of new generation of fascist hippies, patrolling the park and cleaning it. What would happen if the Park Force, or if that mentality really got hold of London? They would annotate it like this. There'd be suspicious raincoats, pedestrian things, blocking CCTV angles, billboards removed, trees to be planted, suspicious gathering, etc., etc. And the net result would probably be death. Ultimate health of public space also, in a way, means ultimate death of public space. This is London. And London is, in a way, a beautiful mishmash, like in the work of this Chinese artist. Based on the survival of ancient patterns rooted in the city, never formally modernized, arbitrary rules, but it seems to represent a definitive rebuke of the dubious charms of the Grand Projet. So in a way, what does that mean for here? One can wonder. And maybe, I cannot show anything we did, but I can talk about our intention. And maybe the whole point here is not to introduce another enclave, or to introduce another new development, but simply in a way repair the breach in the urban fabric that this area represents, in a way zipping together Kensington and Hammersmith, in a way having the surroundings implode on the site itself, and have in a way a seamless kind of connection through the various parts of London, which then in a way also makes a connection to Notting Hill, Holland Park, and all the kind of wonderful things that are nearby. And maybe the presence of the BBC, if the BBC cannot occupy everything, can function as an important trigger in a way to attract inhabitants to inhabit that fabric, and that is then.